indicated has to do with health savings accounts and how they may provide additional benefits to the agency. So with that, I will turn it over to Ben and allow him to start his forward back.
I don't.
I'll probably start.
Oh,
You
okay.
have to do it for me.
All right, sounds fine.
Thank you very much, Dwayne, and thank you very much, Board, for having me here. I'm here to speak about a consumer-driven health plan. This plan is another medical option. This type of plan I've been enrolled in personally for 7 years. I absolutely love this type of plan. I believe this type of plan is the best option for almost any employee in regards to a medical plan option. I also think it's a winner for you as the district. It can save you, the district, money, and it's a winner for the JPIA. So I strongly believe in this plan, but I don't get anything out of you guys offering this type of plan. So don't mistake my enthusiasm for it as kind of pushing you to offer this type of plan. It is just informational only. So first off, what is a consumer-driven health plan? Ollie, next. So a consumer-driven health plan is basically the combination of a high deductible insurance combined with a health savings account. So you basically, if you want to have a health savings account, your insurance plan has to be subject to a certain deductible. And currently you do not offer a plan with a high enough deductible to offer a health savings account. These plans are also called consumer-directed health plans, account-based health plans, HSA-compatible health plans, next-generation health plans. They have all sorts of different names, but they all mean exactly the same thing. A medical, high-deductible medical plan paired with a health savings account. This is the Republican kind of answer to Obamacare. They want to heavily rely on these types of plans. So you'll be hearing all sorts of verbiage about these types of plans in the future. So why do I love a consumer-directed health plan?
Can you go back to what you just said about Obamacare?
So basically the Republicans see HSAs as a better answer and high deductible plans as a better answer than to subsidizing premiums. So nobody likes a high deductible insurance plan. I don't love my medical insurance because it has a high deductible. I love my medical insurance because it has a health savings account. These are outstanding savings vehicles. Basically, you can save for retirement. You never lose the money. It is your account. You can spend the money on medical expenses on a pre-tax basis. So you can deposit money into this account on a pre-tax basis. You can withdraw money from this account on a pre-tax basis. Next, Holly, you were on the right slide.
My mistake.
You can deposit money on a pre-tax basis and withdraw money on a pre-tax basis. It's the best of the IRA and the best of a 457 combined. You can use the money in retirement if you don't use it on medical expenses. If you use the money in retirement, you're taxed like it's normal income. But if you use it on medical expenses, you will never be taxed on.
Really? So you're saying that if somebody goes ahead and, like self-direct IRA, puts in as $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 as an account, and it's not used for medical tax, it only becomes taxed once you use it for anything outside of medical. So if you use it for real estate or something like that, you would be taxed on the money then used for real estate. But if you use it for medical use, like co-pay, whatever you want to say, you would not be taxed on that plan.
Correct. Now, the caveat is you have to be post 65 to use it on real estate, to use it on these things. Otherwise, if you withdraw it for non-medical expenses before 65, there are tax penalties.
For medical use?
Not for medical.
That's what I'm saying. I'm talking about medical use.
Medical use lifetime. You can use the money for medical and never pay taxes on it. You can use it for medical.
And it's also pre-tax on top of that?
It's pre-tax still.
So if I made $50,000 a year and I put $5,000 every month in this account, that $5,000 will be taken off the front, so I'll be taxed on the $45,000. And that $5,000 I can use for medical for the rest of my life when I use it, not be taxed.
Correct, with the caveat that the state of California does tax it with contributions, not withdrawals.
But if I move and live in a different state, wherever that state taxes is what I'll be paying.
Well, if you have to have a high deductible insurance plan to make contributions. Once the money's in there, you can move to another state.
That's what I'm talking about, once you move, yeah.
Yeah, once
They can't hold you, they can't tax you once you move into another state.
Right,
Yeah.
but as long as you're living in this state paying California taxes, you are going to pay taxes on the
I
contribution.
guarantee in 10 years, if people have money, will not be living there.
Yes, but you'll be earning your money here, so that's when you pay your taxes. So there is a limit on the amount you can contribute to this account. For 2017, the max contribution is $3,400 if you're enrolled in employee-only medical coverage, or employee plus one, employee plus family. The max contribution per year is $6,750 with a catch-up contribution of $1,000 if you're over the age of 55. There is no maximum balance. This account is employee-owned, so it's basically kind of like a checking account. It's really easy to use. You basically get a debit card, and if you go to your doctor's office, you swipe your debit card, and the money comes out of your account, and you aren't required to provide any documentation or proof that it was an eligible expense. You go to the pharmacy, let's say you forgot your debit card, and you have to fill a prescription. You pay cash for it, and then you call up your HSA vendor and say, send me a check for this amount. And they'll say, was it a medical expense? And you say, yes. That's all the documentation you need. And they'll send you a check. No questions asked. Only time you need documentation is if you're audited by the IRS. The IRS is going to want to see itemized receipts and explanation of benefits to prove that all of those withdrawals from the account were eligible withdrawals. But if you aren't audited, you will never have to provide documentation to prove they are eligible expenses. So very easy to use. Next slide. Okay, so how does the CDHP work? So basically, under our Anthem plan, we have phase one where there's a deductible. We have a high deductible of $1,500 for an individual, $3,000 for employee plus one or family. So the entire time you're in the deductible phase, you're paying 100% of everything. You're paying 100% of the doctor visit, whatever that negotiated in-network rate is. You're paying 100% of the prescription expenses, whatever the negotiated rate is. So you're not paying the off-the-street price, you're paying the reduced negotiated price, and you're using the funds in your HSA on all of those expenses. Once you meet your deductible, then you go into the co-insurance phase. At this phase, you have co-pays for your prescription, and you pay 20% of medical expenses for the next $1,000. All of those expenses, too, you use your HSA card on. Once you've met your co-insurance portion or your max out-of-pocket, then you pay nothing for your prescriptions, you pay nothing for your medical expenses, as long as you stay in network. So it does limit your exposure by having that max for medical and prescription.
So does it start over every year?
Yes, it does start over every year. The deductible does. So basically, you start from $1 again on January 1st. Next color. Okay, so we have two types of consumer-driven health plans. The first type we have is a health maintenance organization. Your district currently offers Kaiser. That's an HMO plan. Basically, those type of plan designs have no out-of-network coverage. You can only go to your primary care doctor, and then they'll refer you to some specialist if you need to see a specialist, but you have no choice of doctors you go to. You go to your primary care physician, otherwise you have no coverage. And it's usually a copay plan, so that everybody who has an HMO plan usually goes to a doctor and knows exactly what they're going to pay. Goes to fill a prescription, knows exactly what they're going to pay. So this type of plan design is a little bit different and kind of scary for HMO members. The other consumer-driven health plan we have is a PPO plan. Basically, a PPO plan is a preferred provider organization, meaning you can go in or out of network if you want. You can shop as much as you want. You don't have to go to your primary care physician. You can refer yourself to any specialist you want if the specialist is willing to see you. So it's more of a plan designed for people who want to go see the best doctor available or want to be able to pick their doctor rather than forced to see a particular doctor. These types of plans usually have a deductible and a co-insurance plan. So people in a PPO plan will be used to this plan design. It's just a higher deductible, the same type of plan design, just higher deductible. So they have to get used to that, and they have to get used to using their HSA money. So next, Holly. So let's first compare the PPO plan designs that you currently offer. Your district currently offers the Classic PPO and the Anthem Advantage PPO, and we're recommending adding the Anthem Consumer Driven Health Plan to your book of options. Now, there's a lot of information on this slide. You don't really need to know any of this information. Basically, what you want to look at is the deductible. You can see that the Classic PPO and the Advantage PPO have a much smaller deductible. You can see they both have co-pays versus the consumer-driven health plan. You have to pay 100% of the deductible before co-insurance kicks in. And then the RX, you can see that the two plan designs you currently have just co-pays versus having to pay 100% of the deductible and then getting the co-pay. So if your employees look at just the design of the plan, the high deductible plan, this plan looks horrible. Your employees are going to be scared to death of this plan. It's going to be hard year one to get your employees into this type of plan design. But you can manipulate the plan by using the HSA to benefit the employee and make this plan the best option available to your employees. But it requires a lot of education because they're going to see the plan designs and be very scared of this type of plan design. One thing on this slide I do want to point out to you is that the annual maximums at the bottom, you can see the Classic PPO and the Advantage PPO both have separate prescription annual maximums compared to medical annual maximums. So between those two annual maximums, the maximum your employee could pay out in any given year is up to $13,000. That's a huge amount of money, but it's basically mostly the prescription max out of pocket, and considering the prescriptions have co-pays, it's really, really hard to hit that prescription max out of pocket. So you can kind of take that with a grain of salt. The benefit is the consumer-driven health plan has a much smaller max out of pocket, and it combines both prescriptions and medical information, or medical claims. Next. Okay, so now here's where you can utilize the HSA to make the plan design much more beneficial to your employees. So what the JPIA recommends for our Anthem Consumer-Driven Health Plan is that an employer gives an employee $1,300 at employee-only level, $2,600 at employee plus one, and $2,400 at employee plus family, just a flat contribution into their HSA for any employee that elects this plan based off of their tier. Now, everybody always asks me why the family gets less money than the employee plus one. And that's basically because we've designed the contributions to match the deductible for the Classic PPO. So the Classic PPO has a $200, $400, and $600 deductible. The Consumer-Driven Health Plan has a $1,500 deductible, but if you're giving $1,300 to your employee, the employee is only subject to that $200 of that deductible, just like the Classic PPO. At employee plus one, if they have a $3,000 deductible and you're giving them $2,600, that means the employee is only subject to a $400 deductible, which matches the Classic PPO deductible. And for family, the $2,400 contribution minus the $3,000 deductible means the employee is only subject to a $600 deductible for his family. And it means that the first $1,300 to $2,600 worth of claims is free to the employee. If they spend less than $2,600 a year in claims, then basically they get to keep that extra money. So they get paid to have insurance. If they are a smart utilizer shop and they don't have a lot of claims, they aren't an unhealthy person that's seeing the doctor on a regular basis or have very expensive prescriptions. Now, if we go down further and we look at the max out-of-pocket impact, you can see that the max out-of-pocket for the consumer-driven health plan is $2,500 for an individual or $4,000 for a family. So if you subtract the $1,300 that you're giving an employee, that means the employee is only subject to $1,200 max out of pocket. That's worst case scenario. You have $500,000 worth of claims in a year, you're going to pay $1,200 for that, as long as you stay in network. That's not an unreasonable amount of money to ask your employee. No employee should go bankrupt if they're going to pay $1,200 for an extremely unhealthy year. Your employee plus one, worst case scenario is $1,400. Employee plus family, worst case scenario is $1,600. Now, at the very bottom row, you can see additional costs to the district compared to the CDHP. So the classic PPO, basically, if you were to give them the sample HSA contribution amounts, your district would still save $599 per employee that switched from the classic PPO plan, or $1,200 for employee plus one that switches from the classic PPO to the consumer-driven plan, or $2,800 for each family that switches to the consumer-driven health plan. So there definitely are savings. The downside is you offer the Advantage PPO, and it will cost more for your district if anybody switches from the Advantage PPO to the consumer-driven health plan. The good thing is, right now you don't have a single employee enrolled in the Advantage PPO, so there is no exposure of somebody switching from the Advantage to the consumer-driven health plan. Next. So on top of the low max out of pocket, and on top of the opportunity to make money by being a low utilizer and keeping money in your HSA, you can also save money on a pre-tax basis by making payroll contributions to your HSA and contributing above and beyond what the employer contributes by contributing up to the max. So employee only, if you as the employer gave them $1,300, they would still be able to contribute an additional $2,100 for the year through payroll, which would save them at 15% tax rate for federal, which is very conservative, an additional $315. So their worst case scenario is $1,200 out of pocket, but they can save an additional $300 in tax savings, so that really their worst case scenario is $900 if they utilize the HSA to their maximum benefit. Again, for employee plus one and family, additional savings of $623. So if they're $1,400 worst case scenario for employee plus one, that drops them down to about $800. Basically, if employees use the plan, they can keep their worst case scenarios below $1,000 in any given year. Or if they have a good year compared to a bad year, they may still make money on the plan between the 2 years combined. Okay. Yes?
One question from your last slide. You said if a person's really healthy, they can end up basically making money.
Correct.
From the what if the person is sick and goes to the hospital?
The worst case scenario for employee only would be $1,200. That's if they had $500,000 in claims, they would pay $1,200 out of pocket for that. Families, $1,400, or employee plus one, $1,400, or a family would be $1,600. You could have 7 kids all going to the emergency room on a regular basis. $1,600 is the max you're going to pay. Last 3 years, I had 1 year with no claims, and I've had 2 years that have equaled close to $750,000 worth of claims. I've paid out of pocket over the past 3 years $200. It's a great plan for unhealthy individuals if they use it appropriately and can maximize the benefit by having a good year every once in a while. Then it's an outstanding plan. Okay, next slide. Okay, so now let's look at the HMO plan designs. So we have a Kaiser consumer-driven health plan that goes along with the other Kaiser options that you have. So your HMO members are not going to be used to this plan design. And again, this slide is to show you that the Kaiser consumer-driven health plan compared to the other plans looks horrible on paper. It absolutely looks horrible. You're not going to get every employee to switch because of how bad it looks on paper, no matter how well you design it and how much you contribute to the HSA. Because employees are just scared. They don't trust an insurance guy telling them they'll trust their coworkers. So the first year you're going to get maybe 20–25% enrollment, but as soon as employees talk about it, then the enrollment increases year 2, year 3. So again, looking at the plan designs, you can see the Kaiser Consumer-Driven Health Plan has a deductible when none of the other plans have a deductible. Other plans all have copays versus a deductible and then copays. But again, go down to the very bottom, you can see that the max out-of-pocket for the Kaiser Consumer-Driven Health Plan is $2,600 for an individual or $5,200 for a family. That is a higher deductible than, or max out-of-pocket than the other 2 Kaiser options, but compared to that CalCare HMO plan that has a separate prescription max out-of-pocket, it's starting to look a little bit better on the design piece when you take into consideration it's all rolled into one. Next. Okay, so let's go over the HSA impact on the HMO plan design. For the Kaiser Consumer-Driven Health Plan, ACWA JPIA recommends a $1,500 employee contribution and a $3,000 employee plus one or employee plus family contribution. And that is for the exact same reason as the PPO. Basically, we are saying you as the employer pay that full deductible for your HMO participants. They aren't used to a deductible. Go ahead.
I have a question. JPIA is saying what we should pay for participating in this plan. Why are they saying they make this recommendation? We, as the district, we should be paying for this. They don't know what we give our employees.
Well, the analysis.
Do you know that our employees don't contribute one dime to their plan? You tell me how many agencies have that throughout the state of California.
Off the top of my head, not a ton.
Not a ton, you mean very few.
Very few. You're
Right.
correct.
So we're already contributing thousands of dollars per employee to have that type of plan.
Right.
Okay.
If we do this, and we've already had this presentation.
Yeah, but I don't like the way he keeps on saying JPIA recommends that we, AVEK, should pay this money.
Their recommendation is based upon deductibles. And at the end of the they're recommending, I mean, we can pay more if we want. We can pay less if we want.
Why do we do anything?
Well, because if we don't do anything, none of the employees would want to switch. They all stay in the classic plan. And we have no savings in JV.
They can move and we'll have to charge them a deductible, because I'm telling you right now, there anybody in this valley, we don't charge them any money for health insurance since I've been here.
But the premium's going to be less money to the agency, and that savings is going to be passed down to the employee.
How's it passed down to the taxpayer?
Watch till the end.
You'll see the benefits.
Yeah.
Okay.
It all comes together.
We should start our presentations.
Okay.
I always read the book from the back.
And that's why it says sample, because
I'll go to the left.
because you as a district have control over this. I have worked with 40 districts to implement this plan design, and I have not received bad feedback from those districts if they do our
If
recommendation.
they tell me to listen, I'm going to listen. Go ahead.
Okay, so basically for the HMO members, I'm recommending you pay the full deductible because they aren't used to a deductible and they aren't going to sign up for an HMO plan with a deductible if they have not had a deductible in the past. So if you take into consideration the $1,500 and $3,000 that you're giving your employees in the HSA, that means if they spend less than the deductible, they get paid to have insurance. If they spend more than the deductible, that's when the copays kick in, and that's what they're used to and expect. So it's not a strong deviation from their current plan designs. Now, if you take into consideration the max out-of-pocket for the consumer-driven health plan, which is $2,600 and $5,200, with the HSA contribution, that drops the employee exposure to $1,100 for an employee or $2,200 for employee plus one and employee plus family. Compared to the other plan designs, then that's the lowest max out of pocket. So your unhealthy employees, you're reducing their worst case scenario. For your healthy employees, you're giving them an opportunity to make money. And if you look at the very bottom row, based off of that sample HSA contribution, regardless of which HMO plan your employees are in, it will save the district money if employees switch from, let's say, Anthem CalCare HMO. If you give them $1,500, the district will still save $2,000 for every employee that switches out of the CalCare HMO. Employee plus one, the district will save $4,000 for every employee plus one that moves, and almost $6,000 for employee plus family. Across the board, you can see both Kaiser options. You're going to save money at every single tier in premiums, even giving them this sample HSA contribution. So you're motivating your employees to switch to this plan by incentivizing them, giving them the opportunity to make money, and reducing their worst case scenario. Next. Okay, on top of that, again, there's pre-tax savings. You can see if the employees were to contribute the max they could in a year, they could save anywhere from an extra $285 to an extra $560 in taxes by contributing above and beyond what the employer contributes. Next. Okay, so this is your current district enrollment in each of your plan designs. You have 49 employees total enrolled. So you can see at every tier how many employees you have at family, in which plans. So on the bottom you can see that the costs change to the district. So the Advantage PPO, you have no enrollees in that plan, so there's no cost change. At every other plan, if every single employee in the district switched, your district would save $101,000 on premiums next, well, this year if it had been done this year. I can do analysis based off of our rates next year, but we haven't quite released those rates yet, so I will have to do that analysis later on.
That's $180,000, almost $102,000 after we pay into the employee HSAs, right?
That's correct. The only thing that does not...
At the JPIA's recommendation.
Correct.
So if we wanted to pay more, our savings would be less. If we want to pay less, our savings would be more.
Correct. The only expense that is not calculated into those savings is the administration fee for your HSA vendor. So if you want to go with Health Equity, JPIA's recommended HSA vendor, the admin fee is $2.95 per member per month who enroll in that plan. If they drop the consumer-driven health plan, and still have their HSA, you are no longer responsible for that admin fee. You're only responsible for the admin fee for people currently enrolled in a high deductible plan.
Who is it, the agency or the employee?
The agency is responsible for that. So it's up to $36 a year, roughly, per employee that switches out.
What, in your experience, what percentage of the employees would switch over to this plan the first year?
20 to 25%.
Okay, so that reduces the savings the first year substantially.
Right.
Just to bring that to everybody's attention.
We have had 80% enrollment in some districts, but it takes a lot of education. I'm happy to come back and speak to your employees, try and push that number more, but realistically 20-25% is a very safe bet.
But aren't there employees that won't be eligible because of their spouse's insurance?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so you want to explain that, or is that part of your
Next
presentation?
Okay. Okay, so the HSA contribution rules. So first off, in order to have an contribute to an HSA, these rules are only for contributions. You can have an HSA and have money in the HSA and not be eligible to contribute. That doesn't matter. These rules only apply to putting money into your account. You must be enrolled in an HSA eligible CDHP. Subscriber can't have other medical coverage. So basically you can't have, as the employee, you can't have secondary coverage through your spouse. You can't have Medicare as secondary. You can't have TRICARE or any other medical coverage. You as the employee can only have the high deductible plan. Your spouse, your children, anybody else you cover can have secondary coverage, can have Medicare. It only applies to the subscriber or the employee that can't have double coverage. Subscriber or spouse can't have access to an FSA or HRA unless it is a limited purpose plan or a post-deductible plan. So that again requires education, because you may not operate FSAs here, but a spouse may have an FSA, and that would make the employee ineligible for contributions to an HSA.
What is an SSA?
A flexible spending arrangement. Those are use it or lose it plans. They're like pre-tax spending accounts, but if you don't use it by the end of the year, you lose it. So it's just a similar plan designed to an HSA, but not as good as an HSA.
And we have dental and vision with the agency, so what does that mean?
So the FSA is a pre-tax spending account. When it's a limited purpose, meaning dental and vision only, you can only spend that pre-tax money on dental and vision expenses. You can't spend it on medical expenses. Okay, and a subscriber can't be claimed as a dependent on someone else's tax returns. I don't think any full-time employees.
What about employees that have short-term and long-term disability?
That does not impact HSA. Nope. Okay, next.
That was another question. When, are you done yet? I mean,
Yeah.
go ahead, finish it on this.
Okay, so basically, the experience for your employees is going to be drastically different. If there's not a strong education piece to this, your employees that enroll in it are usually very angry when they start receiving these $500, $1,000, $1,500 bills if they don't understand the plan design. If they do and they realize that I've already got this money in my account, my employer paid me this money, so it's just a completely different way of thinking for your employees. So it requires a lot of education. Employees also have to manage HSA investments. You can invest your HSA money, grow your HSA money, and you don't pay taxes on that profit. So you can roll money into a brokerage account and invest in bonds and stocks and all sorts of other investments. But if you roll it over to a brokerage account, it's no longer FDIC insured, so it's no longer protected. You could lose your money through those investments.
You keep on stating that it's not taxable, but earlier in the presentation, it is taxable if it's at a certain age. So, I mean, I don't understand.
It's never taxable for medical expenses withdrawn.
As long as you live in California?
Anywhere. In the world, really, like.
Until you convert it into real estate, until you convert it outside of medical.
Exactly, right. And you can have the money in your account and you can roll it into an investment account.
Because we have
too.
employees right now that have been moving, when they're, after retirement, we move it out of state. So they're able to take this benefit with them?
Yes, it's like a checking account. It's like a 457. It's their money regardless of where they go. There's no possibility of them not having access to it because it is their money.
But you did say the contributions are
Taxed in the state of California for state taxes only, not federal taxes. So you don't pay taxes for Social Security if you deduct for Social Security. You don't pay Medicare taxes on it. You don't pay any of those federal taxes. You do pay the California state
That's what I just said. So if you use it for medical, you still pay tax on top of it?
for the state of California only for your contributions.
It's when the money goes in, not when it comes out.
So,
So when you put the money in, you have to pay a state tax.
So it is an exemption. You said pre-tax exempt, it's not. Only one of the entity is, and the other one's not.
correct, I said with a caveat, the state of California is not tax-free. We are one of 2 states that are not tax-free currently, and there is legislation to conform to the federal standard, but that's been stalled in the legislature for a number of years now.
What's the other state?
I believe it's New Jersey. Okay. So employees will also have to shop for services. So we have an app called Passlight where they can pull up and search for a doctor and see how much it will cost a doctor. They will also have to coordinate reasonable treatments with their doctors. So a lot of doctors are scared of getting sued. So they'll order every test in the book that they can think of if there's a remote chance of it being part of that. I go to my doctor and I say, I have a high deductible plan. What do you think is best? Well, this is highly unlikely. Let's try this first and see if that works. And so that allows for a little more savings if you're having those conversations with your doctor and he lets you know that, okay, you have this risk, but let's try something else first. It helps the employee save money on that high deductible and paying 100% by having those conversations. Okay, next. So the final piece of it, I said this benefited the JPIA as well. So here's how it benefits the JPIA. Basically, it creates good consumers of healthcare. If you have an employee under the PPO plan paying $5 for a generic prescription or $20 for a brand prescription, and the full cost is actually $400 for the brand compared to $25 for the generic, if they're subject to the full cost until they meet their deductible, they're a lot more likely to try the generic and stay on the generic even after they've met their deductible, which saves the pool money. And if you save the pool money, our premiums are based off of all the claims we pay out. So we can get employees to be better consumers, shop for care, and keep their expenses lower, then our premiums don't go up as much, and it saves the district money. Another good example is MRIs. There's a huge variety of MRI costs. You can pull up on your phone and see, okay, I'm going to pay $800 for an MRI here or $2,500 for an MRI there. I'm going to go to the $800 MRI. It's the exact same MRI. It's just overhead at one facility is much higher than the overhead at another facility. So it's good to get employees looking at those types of things and shopping. Okay? So the steps for implementation are to establish an employer contribution strategy. You don't have to go based off of our recommendation. Select an HSA vendor. Submit a board resolution or a letter from the GM requesting the Anthem CDHP or the Kaiser CDHP, and plan open enrollment communications. And I can work with your staff to go through the open enrollment communications process. So that's the end of my presentation. Any questions?
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
A lot of bills and other information. The first item we discussed was with Teresa over the Treasury, and in your agendas you'll see in our report, nothing's really changed, so we are spending money. And I know we're going to be going over all that August 1st. Dwayne's all ready and geared up.
There you go.
So I want to go ahead and move on board order 681 that we approved in the Treasury report ending June 30th.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Well, item A2, probably the most discussion we've ever had on a conference or membership or anything. And we looked through it as committee, and we feel that it's going to be a good idea if we go to this next year. We believe there's a lot of components in this membership that's going to be utilized with our water bank, with the people that we're going to be hopefully attracting to invest in our bank. So I want to go ahead and approve our board order 682.
Second.
Any discussion?
I have one.
Yes.
Because this is, this is not, we got a standing order, we need to get, all of us need to get a copy of any meetings and conferences as soon as possible, because I know there's some things coming up that gives us time to attend to see what this is all about, dealing with these, and how they, how it's going to work with AVEK.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Item 6B, adjudication and water master committee. Russ?
We have a meeting tomorrow, and Dwayne was going to give us an update on some items of interest.
Sure. The meeting tomorrow was 10 o'clock here at AVEK. The agenda, you have a copy of the agenda packet. But in any event, the items that will be discussed, the main item is the adoption of the annual report. This is been a very, very long and difficult process over the last several months to get the first water master annual report ready for submission to the court by the August 1st deadline. Todd Brownwater's put out a draft report which all the interested parties had provided recommendations. Those recommendations have adjusted the language of the report, and by and large, we went through the draft at the previous meeting, and you can see how the annual report is going to be an important document moving forward to maintain the groundwater basin here in the Valley. And so that'll be, I suspect, the discussion item at tomorrow's meeting. Also, in the engineer's report, there's going to be some discussion about some of the other measures that are going to come about as the water master gets going. That will include some rules and regulations, which they need to just make their organization work with a common theme and a common set of rules and regulations. And then also they're going to be talking a little bit about their meter requirements for putting meters in all the production wells. And then also a discussion about some assessment on Exhibit 3 for those that have paid and those that haven't, and how best to collect the balances. So with that, that would conclude the highlights of what's going to be presented at the Water Master Board meeting tomorrow.
We asked them to come up with a list of attorneys for us who they think would fit for the water master board. And there was one attorney for each member of the board who was on this group. And so today they had a conference call. They made a recommendation of 7 names that would go to the water master board. The beauty of our process is this is a consensus. The 5 attorneys that are put on to choose which member of the water master. So the thought is that if they make it through that group, then it'll be easier to form a consensus on the water master board to choose the attorney, which is probably the second most controversial thing that we're going to do after choosing the water master. So I just thought I'd share that with you.
In my opinion, it's the most controversial.
It'll be the most controversial, yeah. And
One thing we went to the bills, and I'm very upset with this. Nothing against Bill. These attorneys, this whole fake out there, what they're doing is they're contacting Bill to have Bill respond on redundant stuff that has nothing to do with anything. It's not going to change the stipulated judgment. It's not going to do anything. So I have an extra $5,000 worth of bills in here because these guys are milking the cow. So they need to get this attorney, whoever it is, that, you know, you're our representative of the board, you know, and anybody who wants to listen to it on the board can listen to it. It's free, and it's very, very good the way they do it. But we don't need to have this correspondence. You know, they talked about this, they talked about that. They don't need that.
And I'm hoping as soon as we get our water master agreement on the I think that would be good for the taxpayers.
Yeah, well, some of them, no, the county, some of these people, like the county, you know, they'll watch it like that. They're gonna send their guy there every one anyway. For no matter what. Oh, I'm thinking there, man, too.
Anyway, we're making good
Okay.
progress.
What, you first said 7, then you said 5, so I don't understand that.
So each member of the water master board, so Bill was our representative.
Right.
And each one of the other members chose a representative to this group.
Right.
To form a consensus of what attorneys to bring forward. So there's 5 attorneys that shows a group of 7 attorneys that they all had consensus.
Okay. So none of okay, so that makes total sense. So the 5 that were tied to the water master people themselves, held in a conflict of interest people, so they went ahead and picked 7 other neutral ones they felt were neutral. Is that kind of what?
They picked 7 attorneys that they all formed a consensus, and none of them rejected, saying that they thought they would be good attorneys to be our water master board attorneys. So if one of them had an objection to them, they did on this.
I see.
Which
I was worried about
should
some of the
help us
representatives, I was representing, 5 or 6 of these lawsuits out, people out there, and they, that kind of person I think would be a conflict.
And there's some qualifications for them to become
Okay.
attorneys so that they don't have
Okay.
conflicts.
Okay.
Who was the landowner, did Johnny and Dennis have their landowner attorneys on that?
They did.
Huh?
They did. I think Zimmer was one of the attorneys. Not sure who the other one is. And then the plan is that we will get a list tomorrow and hopefully a consensus of the board will push. Yes. But they top of the hand. Was it Taylor? Oh, Cush was. Oh, for Taylor. Yeah.
Yeah, Robert.
So Cush is,
And that was your attorney.
so, anyway, we're making good progress.
I had one question on that water deal. I had a phone call the other night on this carryover water. On that carryover water, is it stated in the time? The number, should it be a ramp down number that can be, that you have to go for on carryover?
Here, I think, if I can address that, I think that's still up for some debate, and I think it's going to be brought up tomorrow. So I think we're going to learn a lot more about that.
But it has.
Yeah, and that, all of the carryover stuff, and the return flows and all that will all be defined in the rules and regulations. So, because you have a judgment and then there's a real world you administer and put all this to paper, and what happens in this case and what happens in this case. The rules and regulations are supposed to help clarify all that. So that's
If I could just make a comment on it, I feel that it's, that carryover water needs to be for the year that we're in. Because there's a lot of people that are not going to use all this water. So it should be for the year that. So if I pump in 9,000 cubic feet of water, I ramp down to 7, I have 2,000 carryover.
But, like I say, I think that's what it's intended to be, but the rules and regulations should define that. Then there will be a discussion about carryover and the water master board. So,
This, I think, we need to push that direction.
Yeah, we have, in fact, I think that there is a discussion of carryover water.
because we need to clarify all of those.
Item 6D1, consideration and possible action to renew the exclusive right to represent buyer lessee for purchase or lease of real property and exclusive right to represent owner for sale or lease of real property. Inland Realty for the period August 12th, 17 through August 10th, 18. What?
Sure. Thank you, President Betts. This item here has to do with 2 agreements that we've have executed for the last several years with regards to Inland Realty to assist us with the sale of property and for the purchase of property. These agreements are contained in the packet here, so it's a fairly, all the terms and conditions have changed. We do want to make a change to the exclusive rights to represent owner for sale or lease of real property. And in talking with our attorney, we want to make sure that they can only sell property that is approved by we want to be explicit in that they can only sell property that's approved by the board of directors, not by anybody else or anything like that. So we just want to make that language clarification, and with that clarification and approval by the attorney on that language, we recommend approval.
But, yeah, so you're saying it was not in there that anything to do with land acquisitions have to be approved by the board?
It wasn't specifically said that it had to be approved by the board, so we want to make sure that the language is in there, so that not that it's likely to happen, but you don't want your general manager to tell them that the young ones to go out and sell that piece of property. You know, so you want to have it be an affirmative act for the board. Just to,
Does that go both ways, sell
and that's right.
Is that already in this contract or is it going to be added?
It's going to be added. We'll change the language there, and if the board is okay with that, then we would recommend approval subject to the attorney's approval of that language.
I'll make a motion to approve Order 6D1 with Dwayne's definition, or description. That's going to be added.
I will say.
Thank you. Any more discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Item 7A, set the 2018 water rate public hearing date for October 24, 2017.
Yes, as you know, our rules and regulations for the AVEK board requires a 45-day notice for a public hearing for setting new water rates for 2018. We'd like to request that the board set that date for October 24th, 2017.
Okay, I'm going to go over 7A.
Any more discussion?
Yeah. Okay, so what's important about this is, just from the new records, we're going to have Rep. Hillis.
Rep. Pep.
So when are they coming? September?
They'll be coming probably in August and September with the Water Rates Committee to
Okay, maybe a presentation showing what our costs are tied to the water rates, so that will be presented before we actually have the hearing. And anybody that wants to see the presentation, all our customers and purveyors should definitely see what's going on.
Right, and we typically have a purveyors meeting before the board meeting to get any input from our customers so that they're aware of the financials.
Any more discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Item 8A, bills payable. Consideration and possible action.
Total for the contract change order number 3 is $38,139.68 with a total days allowed in addition for 25 days, which extends the contract timeline out to July 29th. Item 1 is casework, something that was missed in the design by AV Engineering for the board dais to ensure that it's all wood. There was some drywall in the design, so we wanted to make sure that it was a sufficient product for the building. So that came out to $32,566 and 12 cents. There's also wind days associated with item number 2, 13 calendar days, and we will expect probably a few more by the end of the contract. Item 3 is a credit associated with the deletion of the asphalt slurry seal for the area of construction. 4 is survey charges, which are associated with contractor requesting surveying and knocking over the survey stakes that were placed by a contractor or by a quality surveying, and it had to be restaked. So we back charged the contractor for that. And 5 is,
Real quick,
Yes.
it also mentions that.
oh, yeah, my apologies, yeah. So there's survey charges and damaged cameras because the contractor struck a utility, a conduit, an electrical conduit, light poles, and that had cameras in it as well, and it actually caused a surge in our system. It blew a few of our cameras out, so we back charged them for that. As well as a damaged valve wrench that they ran one of ours over. 5 is costs associated with the installation of the butterfly valve and piping, and this was due to the fact that as-built from the Dawn project in the 1970s indicated a T where there was actually a cross, and it did not make it onto the as-built plan, so the cross was struck and it'll have to be repaired. So we'll have to take out that whole cross and replace it with sufficient material to utilize for our utility water line. And that concludes my change order 3.
One thing I would want to note for the board is that this project has right about 1% change orders, which is pretty low for a project that's tight with some variables working on an existing site where there's actually so many different trades that are involved. So it's been pretty low.
It's understandable, you know, it seems cramped there.
Yeah.
Item 8D, General Manager Report.
We need to approve
We
this.
need to approve that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Change order.
I'll move to approve. C1. A and C.
All in favor, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Item 8D, General Manager Report.
Here we go. July 25th, 2017. On the State Water Project, we still have some pretty hot and dry conditions up in the area. There's fires that are threatening the county and Norville, and you know they get any lightning at all that sets things up. You know we've continued to have our above average, the highest margin in the northern station. But it's been dry the last 3 days. The Orville's spillways continuing, and continue lowered the capacity down to about 65%. And it's remarkable. I've been listening to some of the blogs and some of the various items that have been coming out about the spillway, and people are basically, in my opinion, kind of piling on a little bit and blaming everybody in the world about what went wrong, and trying to blame for and in reality it's it's just one of those things that happens from time to time, and it's not good that it happened in this particular situation, but the continuous finger pointing really isn't beneficial.
Is that lighter color? Is that like concrete?
That's the native bedrock material. They're actually taking the chute that where they're going to lay the concrete on, and they're washing it so they don't have any fines or any contamination at all. So the whole stretch is being washed. They're putting in some concrete at the present time, some base concrete and kind of leveling concrete to get that into the area, and they'll have over 100,000 CFS capacity for the spillway by November 1st. So you look at the incident happens to November 1st, having a reconstructed partial spillway, it's a pretty significant achievement to get to that point.
Are they redesigning this spillway in any way?
Yes, they're re-looking at the whole thing. The dam safety group has they've taken over the design. So all of they have a board of experts that report to the dam safety folks. So all the design is peer reviewed by them. So they're not building it just as they did before. They're taking in all the new standards and everything in account as they put this thing together. So, you know, all the new seismic standards and all those kinds of things. So they're re-engineering. We still, obviously, we're at 85%. The Table A imported supply, that's 123,000, plus we got 14,000 Article 21, and we have 15,000 worth of carryovers, so those numbers have changed. We got your new graph here. Wanted to see how you like this. What we've done here is talked a little bit about the plant location, the type of treatment that we're doing, and then where the water's going and what the flows are, and what we've delivered through June of 2017 versus 2016. So we start at the top line. We have Quartz Hill Water Treatment Plant, which is where we are right here. It's a conventional treatment plant with conventional treatment mechanisms. We're running 42 million gallons a day. And you can see we're a little bit ahead of where we were last year as far as water flowing through the plant. We're at a little over, just short of 10,000 acre feet through June, where we were at a little over 7,200 feet last year. Through the plant here, right now our roasting is off. So that,
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
On the Quartz Hill Water Treatment Plant, what flow could we have here? What
96
capacity?
96 million gallons a day.
That's a lot more.
Yeah, it's about half.
Thank you.
We have the East Side Water Treatment Plant. You can see we're running a small amount, 1.5 million gallons a day through there. But you know, as we get down further in the graph, I'll show you the other numbers. The Acton plant is a conventional treatment plant, and it's off. The Acton PWD intertie is 2.4 million gallons a day, and we've added. You can see at this park we've added 440 acre feet delivered, where last year was 240.
So, the issue this time, we were talking about yesterday, you see the difference?
200 acre.
100%.
Yeah. See the East Side Water Bank. This is where we're coining a new term, which is called geopurification. It's a real term. And we didn't make it up. It's a real term. And it's essentially where we're utilizing the nature to treat our water. And in this case, on the east side, we're in 2 million gallons a day, which is being removed from the East Side Water Bank and sent to that service area out there. And you can see where we're at. We're at 670 acre feet total. And we didn't do any of that last year. And then when it comes to the West Side Water Bank, our geopurification system, we're running 6 million gallons a day, which is going to the Roseman Mojave North Feeder to service that portion of our service area. As you can see, we've got about 2,000 acre feet that we've operated to this point, and then we have 1.1 million gallons a day, which is the minimum flow that we have to run through the SIP line through 80th and Beach in order to keep that line fresh and potable. So gives you an idea of what that is. And the bed trench is off. The only acre foot of water that we pumped for bed trench had to do with maintenance activities and water treatment activities.
guys go, can, snap those? Our, the first hill could be 90.
6 million.
We got pushed, right? Okay, can you tell us how much Roseman can do?
I think for 15 million gallons.
How much?
15 million gallons.
Yeah, so
Am I
we're
right?
gonna use.
14.
No, how many, what?
14 million gallons.
Yeah, 14 million,
Okay.
right, okay.
That's close.
14 million not being used, and then we got east side, and how much,
How much did you say? 10.
10, and how much is Acton when it, for? But it can go up to 6? 4 as it stands right now.
Yeah.
And then what was it originally for? 2?
No, it's always been 4. There was plans to expand it to 8, but we never did.
Okay, the plan can go to, that's what I'm saying, it can go to 8.
Not without expansion.
But I said with an expansion.
With an expansion.
Yeah, but it can go to 8. And then, and how much can Roseman go to? 20? With
14.
an expansion.
Well, with the addition of the ozone contactor, the original expansion can't be done now. We'd have to put plate settlers in there, but you could probably get another 5 NGD out of it with putting
But
plates in it.
still, what, you said 14? Yeah. So we have so much capacity available and plenty of places to move on.
Right. We have a lot of unused capacity. Okay, as far as the water banking, everything continues, 250 million on the west side, we're continuing to move further along. If you include what we began in November and December of last year, we're well over 40,000 acre feet so far of recharge, and we continue to do about 1.8 acre feet, not about 1.3 on this side.
Hey, John, how many, with the 34,000 this year, total prior banking, how much water we have in the bank now? 90,000, 80,000?
It's over 100,000.
Over 100,000. We have surpassed the stipulated judgment.
Well, yeah,
I'm just saying, under the stipulated judgment, we take away the 10%, we have more water than the entire valley has, that's been given to, under today's conditions.
right, we have a safe yield
Yeah.
in storage.
So, and that's never been discussed, but I want to bring that out, the job we've done as a board. And the way it's gonna go, we're gonna double, we're gonna get 60,000 this year, what we'll put in there?
We'll put 70, right around 70,000.
70,000.
So we'll have close to 3 to 4 years of our customers in storage. So we're getting real close to being able to weather that next drought without too much trouble.
Is that water table coming up out there, John? All this water going?
Yeah, it's building a little bit of a mound. Yeah.
Do we have an estimated completion date on the east side?
There'll be a report, we're anticipating beginning construction on the east side remediation stuff beginning September, October. A couple months to complete. Once again, I provide this for you. It gives you a little bit of a historic perspective of what a difference a year will make. The blue is our water coming in, our estimated actuals, and then what we did at 2016, which was 40,000. And if you remember way back in the drought days, back in 2015, you can see how different it can be in just a few years. So it's got to complement the more looking to the future and your ability to move quickly in this way here to be able to put this much water into the water basin and be able to store that, because we will get another year or two that's in the green there, and we're going to be very pleased that we have all of these supplies ready and available to us. Yeah, I mean, we're not going to deliver it to our customers. We're probably in the
So we have more houses today, this is interesting. In the heyday, back when the farmers were, cooking away, we did what, 80, 90,000 back in the heyday? Yeah.
That was
And how much is it today?
40, 45,
Yeah.
50, somewhere
Half.
there.
About a half.
Yeah.
And part of that's why the pricing of the water, I mean, everybody
Right.
wants to ride
That's all.
desert state.
Rocks,
Huh?
rocks, I mean, it's all the crap.
Well, we
Rules,
have to,
regulations.
we have to understand too that as a wholesale agency, we provide a commodity for our customers to utilize. And up until this point, it has and will continue to be more cost effective to use groundwater water supplies as opposed to importing more expensive imported water. But as the dram count comes in, there likely will be some additional demand. But you need to look at it from a historic point of view. If imported water had been used more extensively over the last 20 years, you probably wouldn't have the same depletion of the groundwater basin that you have. So it's just one of those things that will all come into focus as time goes on in the next 10 years or so, especially with the water master.
The sad thing is, we have an opportunity, it still hasn't been done, with Palmdale City, Avagosa Creek. There's no reason why there's not water running down that creek right now, for any reason. I just saw yesterday, I've been driving down back to back, and they're grading the road. You guys know that, they're grading the road up there? Yeah, they got water pipelines and the ag lines running, just what I was talking, coming down the hill.
Coming down.
But it's just making, instead of going in the Amagosa, it's making a left-hand turn going up towards Leona Valley. And that's part of the project on top of the mountain, Joshua Park.
Joshua
There's
Ridge.
a ranch, they got everything out there. All the heavy equipment, they're building that road. It's just gonna connect to Lake Elizabeth Road. But I don't understand why we can't run the same plant down the hill and start putting another 5,000 acre feet of water in there.
Yeah,
It doesn't make any sense.
Well, I think
That's what they needed.
I think the physical, it's an interesting thing. Putting water in creeks is not as easy as it first appears because while the actual pumping of the pipelines and everything are pretty easy to accomplish, the regulatory process of getting the permits to do all that just take more time and expense sometimes. So
I know there's a lot of things living in there right now. It's gonna, there's gotta be 100 different endangered species living in that thing right now. The Joshua trees were all dead, they planted them, and they survived.
Well, as we mentioned, we've got a Water Master Board meeting tomorrow at 10. There'll be, we have the WRA Western Water Seminar August 18th to 10th, and I will be in Sacramento tomorrow to have another meeting with seawater contractors. I did want to alert you to one thing. We did, the governor has recommended, or what's the right term, has appointed a new DWR director or chief. I don't know why I can't talk, but anyway, it's the head guy at DWR has been appointed by the governor. He's Grant Davis, and he's an interesting choice. And there's a little article in the pass around file about Grant Davis, and he's not an engineer. He is the former executive director of the Delta Bay. I can't remember exactly what it is, but anyway, he's Bay Institute. That's what it was. So he's an environmentalist, and he has an environmental spin. So the alarming, a little bit of alarming take that I have in the article was a one-on-one interview was that his take on the California water fix and anything having to do with the Delta is the fact that the beneficiaries of the exported water should be paid for all of the fixes of the Delta. So, which is kind of right out of the, you know, every restoration project, everything that they want to accomplish should be paid for by the water fix. So, it'll be interesting to see how this all works out over because you know, it's typically not that approach isn't one that's been supported by the state water contractors. You know, because we got to try to protect our ratepayers with regards to future costs. With that, that concludes my general manager's report.
Any questions? Who was in that position before?
They had an interim person, and he was probably in hindsight probably as appropriate guy as we could have. He took the interim job I think in January of 2017. The spillway problem occurred in February. So he was on the job like 2 weeks, and he was right in the middle of all these spillway issues. But he was the former director of emergency services for the AWR, so he was the right guy at the right time for the right job. But as he mentioned last week when I was in Sacramento, that you know, it was a good time for him to step down. He wasn't planning to be the long-term director. That those last few months confirmed that it was a wise choice to retire and step down. So,
Thank you, Dwayne.
yeah.
Item 9, Director's Report.
Yeah, I was going to have a discussion item at the next board meeting, give the board an opportunity to see the presentation, to digest the information that's been provided. We'll provide, or staff will provide a recommendation on how to proceed if you choose to do so at the next board meeting.
Marla? Item 10, Attorney's Report, please. Item 11, closed session.